Sawadee Kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. This is our next video in the series of the Eightfold Path. In this video, we're going to be focusing on right intention. This is the second step of the Eightfold Path. Welcome. Right intention is the second part of the Eightfold Path. This is helping you to understand how to build the right thinking or the right thoughts in the mind in preparation for developing all the rest of the Eightfold Path. The way that the Eightfold Path is structured, it's 8 steps, but those aren't sequential in order in terms of you need to master one before you move to the other. Instead, you're learning and practicing all these individual steps almost like they're little dials on a computer or on a sound system. And you're trying to tweak each one of these dials individually and bring it up closer and closer to the ideal. So with right intention, let's look at the words of the Buddha related to right intention. And what, monks, is right intention? The intention of renunciation, the intention of non-ill will, the intention of harmlessness. This, monks, is called right intention. Right intention has 3 components to it: renunciation, non-ill will, and harmlessness. So let's be sure that we understand each one of these, because in order for you to fully practice right intention or right thought or right thinking, you need to understand what each individual aspect of right intention is. So investigating all of the individual 3 aspects of right intention, then you'll be able to practice each of these individually, tuning in right intention closer and closer to the ideal. So let's start with renunciation. Renunciation is the interest and willingness to let go and give up unwholesomeness and the mind's false beliefs and false perceptions of reality. Because if the mind is currently unenlightened and experiencing discontentedness, there are certain things that the mind thinks is true or believes or has these false perceptions about the world around it. In order for you to get to enlightenment, you need to develop the intention of being willing to let this go. Understanding that what you currently understand about the world isn't 100% the truth. There's certain false beliefs or misperceptions, misunderstandings or confusions that you have about the world. One of those we talked about in the previous video, which is establishing right view. If you have wrong view, you're blaming other people for your anger, your sadness, your frustration. And this would be a false belief or a misperception, because the mind believes or it has the misperception that other people are causing you to be angry or annoyed or frustrated. But in reality, if you're practicing renunciation, then the mind needs to be willing to let that go and realize that that's a false truth. It's a false belief. It's a misperception. So to practice right intention, you need to have an open mind to understanding something other than what you currently know. Because if your mind is experiencing discontentedness, then you don't currently understand 100% of the truth. The Buddha describes someone who gets to enlightenment as having acquired final knowledge. This is a person that has put together all the teachings in such a way that they've learned, reflected, and practiced to completely eliminate the pollutions of the mind, and they've developed final knowledge, or they've acquired final knowledge. And the way that you get to that is starting with the intention of renunciation, being willing to let go of these false beliefs and these misperceptions, as well as any unwholesomeness that you're currently practicing. If you're killing or stealing or having sexual misconduct, if you're lying or taking substances that cause heedlessness, as long as the mind is holding on to these things and others, then you're not going to be able to get to enlightenment. So there needs to be the intention of letting go. This is the intention of renunciation. The next one that the Buddha talks about is the intention of non-ill will. What ill will is animosity or bitterness. It's this anger, hatred, and lesser versions, like frustration, irritation, annoyance. The mind can have this thinking or this thought, this ill will, this bitterness and hostility towards others. As long as the mind is holding on to this ill will towards others, then your speech and your actions are going to emanate from this ill will. So you need to develop the intention or the thinking or the thought of non-ill will, not being interested in having ill will towards others. Essentially what non-ill will is goodwill, because two negatives is a positive. So non-ill will is goodwill. What goodwill is, or the intention of having goodwill, is to practice loving kindness. Loving kindness is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well and be peaceful. This is a practice of non-ill will, that you cultivate in the mind this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. Because as long as the mind is harboring any kind of animosity or bitterness, this ill will, then it's going to come out in your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And then when you're causing harm to others, harm is going to come to you. And this brings us to the third aspect of right intention. The third aspect is harmlessness. What harmlessness is not causing or being incapable of causing harm. Because again, if you're interested in causing harm to others, then that harm is going to come back to you. So if you cultivate in the mind the right intention or the right thinking or the right thought of practicing harmlessness, where you're uninterested in causing any harm to other beings, then cultivating that in the mind, your speech, your actions, and your livelihood, which is the moral conduct, can emanate from this intention of harmlessness, of not being interested to cause harm. And you build on top of your right intention the right speech, right action, and right livelihood, where you're uninterested in causing any harm. So right intention is having the intention of renunciation, of non-ill will, and harmlessness. This is going to promote the thinking or the thought that you need in order to build out the entire rest of the path, where you're practicing moral conduct and mental discipline. Without having built this wisdom of right view and right intention, then you would be unable and incapable of developing all the other steps of the Eightfold Path. Because with wrong view, someone is blaming other people for their discontent mind. And with wrong intention, you would be holding on to things really tightly, you would have ill will, and you would be practicing harmfulness, where you'd be interested in harming other beings. So having this wisdom of right view and right intention allows you to then take responsibility for your own discontent mind and cultivate this intention or this thinking of letting go, of practicing loving kindness, and practicing harmlessness with all beings. So thank you for listening to this video, spending time to become dedicated and diligent in your learning and practicing of these teachings. As you learn and practice more and more of the Eightfold Path, you'll be able to develop the mind closer and closer to enlightenment. And as you need help, just feel free to reach out and ask for guidance. We'll see you in the next video. Sawadee krap.